Oh, hello. You're just in time for tonight's performance. I think it starts in 2 minutes. So you'd better hurry up and go and take your seats. The auditorium is not reserved seating, so you can sit pretty much anywhere you like. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the show. Oh, but the third aisle seat up on the right is mine.
Hello everyone, I'm Brian from Retrogaming Network. Welcome to the re-review. In this series, I'm going to take you back in time 30 years to a time where I was a fresh-faced games reviewer for magazines such as GamesX and Amiga Action. We're going to take a look at one of the games that I reviewed back then, tell you a little bit about who made it, and see how it fares today, and whether or not I agree with my 18-year-old self. I didn't always get it right first time around, and this series allows me to, hopefully, set the record straight where needed. In this episode, I'm going to be taking a fresh look at my review for the movie-themed platformer Premiere, developed by the 8th Day and published by Core Design in 1992. Premiere is a platform game where you must retrieve some stolen film reels so that a brand new blockbuster movie can have its star-studded red carpet unveiling. If only there was a name for that kind of event. Trouble is, these reels are hidden at your rival's studio across 6 different movie sets. Sounds like the perfect setup for a platforming adventure to me. The 8th Day were not featured in my recently published list of the greatest developers ever for the Amiga, not because their output wasn't deserving, but because they only made 3 games for the system, and one of those was a sequel. Finding out who the 8th Day were proved to be quite tricky, as there's not a lot of information out there. Thanks to some help from the Core Design Tribute Twitter, as well as the Moby Games website, I was able to come up with 2 names, Jed Keaveney and Jer O'Carroll. Programmer Jed Keaveney had worked on Little Devil for Gremlin before founding the 8th Day, although that game wouldn't actually get released until many years later for the CD32. He also worked for Acclaim, Software Creations and Slightly Mad Studios, working on games like Need for Speed Shift, still one of my favourite racing games of all time, and the Project Cars series. The distinct cartoon visuals that were to become the developer's trademark came courtesy of Jer O'Carroll, who had previously provided artwork for menus for Gremlin's Team Suzuki, as well as some animation for Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. Remaining at Core Design, he would play an integral part in bringing Lara Croft to life, working as an animator on 6 Tomb Raider games. This was before moving to Team 17, where he worked on the rebooted Alien Breed trilogy and the Worms series. Their debut game was the Viking-themed action RPG Heimdall, which won the Golden Joystick Award for 16-bit Computer Game of the Year and Best Graphics in 1991. It was followed by Heimdall 2 Into the Hall of the Worlds in 1994, which improved almost everything over its predecessor, but perhaps most importantly ditched the horrible combat system, making it far more enjoyable. In addition to the 3 Amiga games, there would only be one more game produced by the team, the decidedly un-PC Syndicate clone called Gender Wars, released for the PC in 1996. Even though it was well made, it's a game that probably should have been cancelled at the design stage, with its Battle of the Sexes theme, tired gender stereotypes and obvious jokes, even for the 1990s. Needless to say, I don't think it's a game that would get made today. We're here to talk about Premiere though, probably the studio's most accessible game. So let's dig out my original review and see what I had to say about it. My review appeared in issue 36 of Amiga Action from September 1992, which featured previously when I covered Crazy Cars 3 on the re-review. Expect it to show up a few more times too, as there's quite a few more games that I reviewed within its pages. I reviewed Premiere at Core Design's offices in Derby, meaning that I only got to play the game for a day before I had to write about it. This was normal practice in order to secure an exclusive review for the magazine, and during my time there I was also fortunate enough to visit Ocean Software, Team 17, 21st Century and Psygnosis. I awarded it 92%, which earned it an Action Accolade stamp, and I was full of praise for the game's presentation. From the flashy intro sequence to the colourful in-game graphics, I claimed that it was one of the best looking games on the Amiga at the time. I especially liked how well the different themes were presented on each level. In a year full of other excellent platform games released, it still managed to stand out against the strong competition. The beauty of the game is that it is mind-blowingly easy to play, while at the same time being nicely challenging. Now it's time for our feature presentation. Switch off all mobile phones, put away all noisy snacks, and please, no talking. Basically, I'm just going to load the game and play it again. I'm going to leave this intro sequence playing. There was a great tradition of animated intros on Amiga games, and I think this is one of the best. Really shows off the fantastic graphics early. I think if you compare the animation work here with some of the animation work on some of the latter Worms games that Jero Carroll worked on, I think you can actually tell that they're the work of the same artist.
Hello?
So you play a character called Clutch Gable, who, as that intro sequence has shown you, has unfortunately had his work stolen, as he was editing a brand new blockbuster movie late into the night at his current studio, and it was stolen by workers at the rival studio. So I'm now making my way through the film sets at the rival studio called Grumbling Studios, starting with a film set for a Western movie. What makes this stand out from other platform games that were released around the same time is that the action takes place on two levels. So as you can see, the platform that I'm standing on, you can jump between the front and the back of the platform. And it's a very strange control method in order to do that. What you need to do to swap from one to the other is you hold down to duck and press fire, and that just seems very odd to me. Oh, that's never good, is it? In some way of being able to. I mean, in terms of gameplay, that highlights how similar this game is to another core design title, Rick Dangerous, which was often criticised for having trial and error gameplay, where you couldn't tell what was going to be happening. You couldn't actually see whether or not a trap was going to appear and hurt you. Generally, though, you can see and avoid any traps that are going to be coming your way on this, which is a definite improvement over Rick Dangerous. Although I did really enjoy the Rick Dangerous games, it must be said. So rather than have you reach the end of a level and then have to fight a boss, you actually have a little mini game instead. So in this instance, it's a quick draw contest, and you just simply have to count the number of times he wiggles his fingers. Although I failed it that time. Yeah, I think he wiggles it 3 times, 5 times, then 4. And that's game over, and I continue. And one of the worst things about this game, one of the things that would have been solved easily by one of the worst things about this game, which would have been solved easily by the inclusion of level codes or better checkpointing, is the fact that if you die on the boss fight and have to continue, as you can see here, it will take you all the way back to the start of the world. So I have to play through the whole of that level again, and I've already lost 12 minutes of my time. So this is the black and white movie section, where all the enemies are in. So all the enemies are monochrome. See, something as simple as the way your character's feet exactly line up with the stairs as you're going up them. That's something that you didn't get very often in the early 90s, and it's just an example of how great the graphics in the game are, and makes the characters and the backgrounds all feel part of the same thing. Like there's no disconnect. That enemy has like a splurge gun. Have you ever seen Bugsy Malone? So he actually fires custard pies rather than bullets. I also like how there's little nods to other core design games. So as you can see, there's a little statue there of Chuck from Chuck Rock. One other thing that you'll walk past is a movie poster for the movie Chuck Rock 8. So this is how the second level was ended. Rather than a boss fight again, you've got this little mini game. Oh, I didn't duck. Fortunately, it's not random, and there is a pattern that you can learn. Okay, this is going on a lot longer than I was expecting. So if you manage to complete Don't Stay in the Train, you move on to the horror world. This level follows a slightly different pattern to previous ones, where all the previous levels have been pretty linear. This one actually gives you a choice of left or right at the beginning here. This enemy actually acts as a kind of springboard to get you up to this higher level. I think each world has a nice variety of enemies and traps. So this is your challenge for the end of the horror level. Try and keep the demon at bay while you roll this wheel to get the door open. I think a criticism that you could level at the game is that even though the levels do have different graphical styles, the gameplay is still very similar regardless. And then stage 5 takes you to a 1950s style sci-fi movie. So that was a quick playtest of Premiere. Let's get on to the summary and see how I feel about the game now. It's easy to see why I gave Premiere such a high score back in 1992. The graphics are just as good today as they were back then, with lots of humorous touches throughout all the levels. I love the fact that the end-of-level challenges are all fun individual mini-games rather than actual boss fights. However, there are a few design decisions that have not aged quite so well. Strange control choice is the first thing worth highlighting. Holding down on the joystick and tapping the fire button is an odd way to switch between the front and back and platforms, and it doesn't feel natural during gameplay. I feel that this could have been accomplished with a quick double tap of up or down, and that would have made a lot more sense. The levels themselves are pretty linear, which isn't a criticism, but they're also large, and if you want to see them all, then you're going to have to play through the entire game in a single sitting. Level codes would have worked wonders here, as even if you activate the infinite lives cheat, you'll probably get frustrated with the distance between checkpoints. Even more frustrating is the fact that if you run out of lives on the boss challenge and opt to continue, you'll have to play through the entire level again from the beginning. Then there's the choice of sound effects or music. It's something that I'm coming across more and more often as I revisit the old games on the A500 Mini. I'm honestly surprised by how many Amiga games there were that didn't allow you to have both at the same time, and Premiere is the latest one to suffer by having such an option. If you chose sound effects, you would have missed out on the excellent soundtrack from Martin Everson, which you can hear in the background of this video, and captured the theme of each level perfectly. I particularly like the Egyptian theme. Incidentally, he also wrote the tunes for a number of other core design games, including Banshee, Chuck Rock, and Jaguar XJ220. None of these things ruined the game completely, and they were all perfectly acceptable in 1992, but I feel that they hold the game back from being as good as it could be. Here's how it compares to other similar games on the Amiga. The score that I would give it today would be 7 out of 10. Thank you for watching this episode of the Re-Review. I hope you've enjoyed it. Did you play Premiere or any of the other games that I've mentioned in this video back in the day? If you did, then please let me know of your memories in the comments. All opinions expressed in this video are entirely mine, so if you do disagree, then please feel free to let me know why. You can find me over on Twitter at UKJohnZoidberg. I'm going to be back in 2 weeks' time with another episode in this series. If you want a clue as to what game I'm going to be playing then stick around to the end and I'll have a little musical hint for you. If you've missed any previous episodes, then you can find all the others in a handy playlist right here on our channel. And if you like what we do, then please feel free to give us a like and subscribe, as it helps support what we do. Thank you for watching, and until next time, happy retro gaming. See you all soon.